Welcome to the 2025 College Football Playoff Semifinal at the 89th Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic opening news conferences featuring the head coaches of this year's participating teams. This news conference is featuring Ryan Day of 8th seeded Ohio State. I am Scotty Rogers, Vice President of Communications for the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic, and I'll be your faceless moderator for today's media session. Each coach will appear separately, starting with Coach Day now, and Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian at noon Central. Coach Day will begin with an opening statement, then we'll go to questions. Please use the raise your hand function to indicate you want to ask the question. When you are called on for your question, please state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Coach Day, please start us off with an opening statement.
Honored to be a part of the Cotton Bowl again. Just a tremendous bowl, and I've said this many times that the Cotton Bowl does a great job in their hospitality. Everybody there takes a lot of pride in the bowl, and it's a great setting. Have a great opponent. Have a tremendous amount of respect for Texas, Coach Sarkisian, his staff, the players. It's going to be a great environment, and we're very excited to play in the game.
All right, Coach, your first question is going to come from Michael Cohen. Michael, please come off mute and ask your question.
Hey, Ryan, Michael Cohen from Fox Sports. Back when you were making the decision to give up play calling, you had talked about how it would afford you some opportunities late in the season to be involved in the team in other areas. Now that that time of the year has arrived, what are some areas that you think it's really benefited you and ways you've been able to get your hands on different parts of the program?
Well, I actually think, this time of year in the playoffs, I've had more time to actually be part of the football during the season, a little less. But now that we've been in the playoffs, been able to step aside really, in terms of some of those other things and really get more involved with the football, which has been great. But certainly having Jim Knowles and Chip Kelly here allows me the opportunity to step away, be around the team, look at things that certainly with a wider lens. And that's been very important this season.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Kurt Bowles. Kurt, come off mute and ask your question.
Good morning, Ryan.
Morning.
Texas has struggled in the run game against Georgia twice and obviously Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. And y'all have obviously played great run defense all year. Does this look like an area you feel like you could exploit Texas?
I look at their offensive line, the coaches, their running backs, and I know that they're very, very talented. They're very good. So we're going to have to be at our best. I know that. And they're always looking for balance. Again, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Sark and the way that he designs his offenses, the way he calls the game. So our defensive staff is going to be working around the clock to put a great plan together. And then our players in terms of executing the plan. And that's what's most important as we head into this week and focusing on the process. We know when we get to this point in the playoffs, we're going to be playing against great players and great scheme. And we know that, this offense has a chance to be very, very explosive. So we got to get back to work this week and focus on the game plan, make sure that, we have a good mixture of the things that we've done in the past, mixed in with things that, are possible change-ups along the way based on how they attack us.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Dan Hope. Dan, come off mute and ask your question.
Ryan, you guys entered the CFP. A lot of people were doubting you. Now you guys are considered the front runner to win the national championship. How do you make sure that you guys continue to play with the same edge now that you're getting a lot of praise when you were coming in with maybe a lot of people doubting you?
Yeah, I mentioned it to the team the other day. Same guys in a room as was there a month ago, and nothing that's happened in the past or really the noise that's around the building has anything to do with our preparation and our focus and our process, and that's what we've been diving into. And we don't need any extra motivation to win this game, but one thing that does motivate our team is an opportunity for the team to play for another week together. And this is a great group of guys that cares a lot about each other, have fun with each other, they love competing with each other. You can see the passion on the field when they get on the field. And I think the way that this format is and the way the playoffs are set now, it allows us an opportunity to grow as a team and to learn and to get better and to peak late in the season. And so I think we've learned a lot about our team. I think we've grown a lot as a team. And, we're banking on this to be our best football of the season. But these guys, they care a lot about each other. And we're just going to focus on the execution and making sure that, we're preparing ourselves as best as we possibly can to go play this game against these guys on Friday night. And that's it. Nothing else matters. I've said this before. Nothing that's happened previously is going to have any effect on what's going on other than learning from our experiences. So we got to do a good job of starting from scratch again. And I think that's one of the things that our guys need to understand is that when you're playing in playoffs, it's almost like, seasons within themselves during that week. And that, you almost start from scratch, and you can go through and you say, okay, here's your opponent, here's your process, here are the walkthroughs, here are the meetings, here are the practices, here are all the things that come with preparing for a game like this to be at competitive excellence. And so we got to do a great job this late in the season of being disciplined to do a better job than Texas.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Tim May. Tim?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Oh, sorry, man. The mute button was a weird place. Ryan, what is the biggest advancement that you've seen Will take from that new guy that walked in a year ago, basically, to being a leader? Like Justin Fry talked about how he stepped up as a leader when you've had those offensive line problems, et cetera, and just kind of, took him by the horns and said, this is not going to stop us and stuff. What just stands out most about him at this moment?
Well, I think even for somebody who's, experienced like he is and with his age, you still, you're at a different school, you're in a different program, you're in a different offense. And playing within the offense and being here now for the number of games that he's played, he's learned a lot about himself, but he's also learned a lot of the offense. He's grown into the offense. And I think he understands that his job is to be the number one leader on the team and on the field, and that the team is going to take on his personality. But in terms of the football on the field, I think he's done a great job off the field of grasping the concepts. He's put a lot of work in with Chip and with Billy. When the first couple words come out of a play, he can finish it for you. And that's when he knows exactly what's going on. He makes sure everybody's on the same page. When you're in the huddle, you can communicate a lot of information, situation, down, distance, score, all those things that come into play. And so, I think that's been important. I also think his footwork has improved. I think when his footwork is on time and he's able to, time some things up in terms of his play actions and drop back passes, you're seeing him play, really good football, making good decisions and throwing the ball accurately.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Bill Rabinowitz. Bill, go ahead.
Hi, Ryan. Slow starts were kind of a problem for you during the regular season. Obviously, not a problem in the playoff. You guys have gotten off to great starts both games. Has there been any extra point of emphasis on that? Is there anything you can point to explain why you guys have gotten off to the starts that you have, and how important has that been? Obviously,
we've always wanted to have fast starts. I mean, we all know that, but I do think that we've talked about early in games. You want to set the tone for the game. As an individual, but also as a team, as a unit. Both games we've started off with the ball and we've gone right down and scored. And so execution fuels emotion, and that certainly has a big part of it. They go together, and we've executed well on those first couple drives, and that's had a big part of it. Defensive got some 3 and outs early in the game, and we've been able to jump on the last 2 opponents. But we also know that when we get into halftime, we got to go play in the second half. And we didn't do a great job of handling the middle 8 in this past game, and so we got to get that fixed. The issues are always there. You come out of a game like this, it's easy to say, well, everything was great. It wasn't great. There was a lot of things that we got to get better at if we're going to beat Texas. And so we got to make those adjustments coming out of the game. We got back here yesterday, got back on the film. It was a quick turnaround, but the guys did a great job getting in here, getting on the film. We kept our routine. And so, that's going to be the focus. But, yeah, we always want to get fast starts, but we know it's going to be 4 quarters. And, we got to come out of halftime. And I think that's the thing that, we talk about all the time. When you come into halftime, it's going to be one of three things: you're leading, it's tied, or you're losing. And then how do you, figure out how you're going to go adapt in the second half to go win the game?
Thank you.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Kenneth Berry. Kenneth, go ahead.
Good morning, Coach. Just in regards to, obviously a lot's changed the year. Obviously, Cotton Bowl appearance last year against Mizzou. Circumstances were much different. So, just how have the young guys on this team? Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is pretty special, but how have the other young guys on this team followed the message of the seniors and kind of locked in terms of knowing like they're one game away from a national title? Playing back in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, well, we're 2 games away from a national title, and the only way that we're going to get to that final game is to win this game, and that's it. And I think yesterday we were able to talk a little bit about that, but once that's done, the Oregon game is over, and you got to move on from that, just like we've had to move on from other games in the past. And the only thing that matters is this game right here, playing against Texas. And again, our motivation right now is keeping this team together one more week, and then we'll go from there and figure out what's next after that. But everything else right now is a distraction. And like you said, the leaders are the ones that have to set the pace on this. And when you're a young 18, 19, 20-year-old person, it isn't always easy to stay locked in for this long of a time. And I think the team that can be disciplined enough to do that and continually prepare at a high level and not cut corners, not fray, not get distracted, not try to take shortcuts this time of year, is going to give themselves the best chance to win. And so we've got to do the best job we possibly can at preparing for this game, and that's our focus, and that's our process right now that we're going to continue to dive into.
Coach, your next question is going to come from Stephen Hawkins. Go ahead.
Ryan, obviously talking about AT&T Stadium, how much does the familiarity with the place help? And I know there's a special place. It's a special place for Ohio State coming 10 years ago after the championship, but also for Will Howard, won a championship there in the Big 12 just 2 years ago. Just talk about Will's kind of being able to go back there and you guys going back there.
Yeah, and even for me with the TCU game, so there's a lot of history there, and I don't think that really has anything to do with anything, quite honestly. We got to go play on the field, but it's a great venue. We've had a lot of great games there, and I know we have great fans, in the Dallas area and throughout Texas, and so we know it's going to be a great atmosphere.
Next question is going to come from Cedric Golden. Cedric, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan, you guys knocked off the Big Ten champions after a nail biter in October, and there are already calls for CFP reform, go figure. Was it an advantage for you guys to just keep playing and not have that long layoff, or was this first round where the guys that had buys all lost, is that just a testament to how competitive college football's gotten? I
know we're all looking to see how this all shakes out and then going to evaluate it and figure out what's the best moving forward. I don't really know the answer to your question other than the fact that I did feel like, we've talked here in this room about, going back and watching some of the old NFL teams and winning that first wild card game and then getting some momentum into the playoffs and continuing to play. There's been evidence of that throughout, the NFL playoffs, because there really has never been a college football playoffs like this before. So you go back on, things that you can best compare to. And so I did feel like if we could get a good win in the first game, we could build momentum. Now, it's our job to keep momentum. We have it right now, but that doesn't mean anything if we don't keep it. So, we'll continue with our process. These games are coming fast. They're not bowl games. They're just like game weeks. And it'll be the same thing there. We get in on Wednesday night, and then we play the game on Friday. So it'll be a quick turnaround, and we'll, again, focus on our process.
Coach, your next question will come from Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Will looked maybe the most comfortable he's looked all season against Oregon. How do you, going into this game, capitalize on that confidence, that momentum? How do you really make that count for you?
We just keep it throwing it to you.
Yeah, I know. It's great. I've reminded my family many times how amazing the name is week in and week out.
Um, well, I think again for Will, the more he plays at Ohio State in this offense with his teammates, he's getting more and more comfortable with everything. And you can say, well, he's played a lot of college football before, and he has. And you're seeing some of those things show up on the field. But just like anything else, you see guys who move from NFL team to NFL team. And sometimes it takes a while to get into the offense and understand it. It's like a language. And when you can understand it, like second nature, that's when you can play your best football. So, again, what does that mean moving forward? Nothing. He's got to go do it from the first snap all the way to the end. And, if you start, thinking back on good games, bad games, and start to think that that's going to affect this next one, you're dead wrong. So he's got to be the best leader on the field. But he also has some confidence right now going into this game, which, again, he's got to continue to build on.
Coach, we have time for a couple more questions. One is from Hank South. Hank, go ahead.
Hey, Ryan, apologize if this was already asked, but obviously you have history with Quinn Ewers. You guys recruited him out of the high school ranks. What drew you to him then, and what impresses you about his game now?
Well, he was one of the first eighth graders that I ever offered. He was in our camp here in the Woody, and I saw a young, he was a boy at the time, really, who just had a tremendous release. And I remember grabbing him and grabbing his dad and said, man, you got a bright future ahead of you. I don't know if this is good or bad, but we're going to offer you a scholarship to Ohio State, even in eighth grade. And again, I don't know if that's legal or not, but we did. And then we went through the process, and boy, it was strange how it all shook out. He decided to come really in the middle of preseason camp for us. And so it was a little bit strange, but again, with college football, you look to adapt the best you can. And then CJ really had a great season that season, and he decided he really wanted to play. And boy, it was disappointing for us, but we certainly understood. And from afar, I've watched him, and he's got a lot of talent. He's a really good player. He comes from a great family, and he's had a great career at Texas. And a lot of people here still have good relationships with him and think the world of him.
Coach, your final question is going to come from Tim May. Go ahead, Tim.
Double dip. I like it. Ryan, there was one play in particular. It was a second Jeremiah Smith touchdown, but Donovan Jackson got into just one of the battle royale with Jordan Birch. Just what has Donovan really brought to this team, above and beyond moving over that left tackle, playing selflessly and stuff. But it was just, it was cool to watch. And maybe put that into words for me, what he's meant.
Yeah. I would say, in terms of his leadership, he's been extraordinary. We all know the story. This is a guy who came back, by the way, from Texas. So I'm going back to his home state to play in this game, which is great, exciting for him. But he came back to play guard and be the top guy taken in the draft next year, after a very long decision with he and his family. So then, after that Oregon game, to have to go move to tackle, it was a very selfless thing to do. But in the meantime, when he's embraced it, and this is a great message for our young players, he embraced the change for the team. He's now become a very, very good tackle, and he's increased his value exponentially, in my opinion, with the ability to play both positions. We'll need him to play that way in this game. They have tremendous pass rushers. They do a great job rushing the passer on the edge. They have some really good players. But he battled his tail off, and all those throws that Will has an opportunity to push down the field, it's because of the protection of the offensive line. So that goes into a lot of work. And sometimes I don't know if the offensive line gets credit for the protection, because in the pass game, it doesn't work if we don't have protection. It doesn't work if we don't run the routes properly. It doesn't work if the running back doesn't pick up his blitz. And then obviously the throw and catch. So a lot goes into the passing game, and the protection's a big part of that.
Coach, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Full transcripts of both news conferences, along with video and audio files, will be distributed via email and posted online via the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic section of the College Football Playoff Media Portal. To gain access to the portal, send an email to licensing@catapultsports.com. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at Scottie, SCOTTIE, @cottonbowl.com. Thanks for joining us. Please stay safe, and wish you safe travels during the remainder of this bowl season.